Welcome back to the channel Coins Bias, to today's video where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare United States coins, and in this episode we're going to uncover the incredible story of the 1984 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that may seem small and ordinary at first glance with a face value of just 1 cent, but in the world of numismatics and coin collecting, it has gained a reputation for being worth as much as $59 million in certain rare and error-filled examples. A staggering leap from its everyday value that truly captures the imagination of collectors and investors alike. And what makes this coin so extraordinary is not just its age or its design, but rather the unique combination of minting mistakes, mint mark errors, and rare die varieties that can turn an everyday coin into a legendary treasure. Because the 1984 D penny was minted at the Denver Mint in massive numbers and was meant to be nothing more than ordinary pocket change for millions of Americans, yet among those billions of coins struck, some came out with remarkable imperfections that have since made them some of the most desirable and sought-after coins in modern numismatic history. And if you're wondering why such errors make a coin so valuable, it's because coin collectors and experts look for uniqueness, rarity, and historical context, and an error coin is by its very nature one of a kind, as it represents a moment in the minting process where something went wrong, leaving behind a coin unlike most of its siblings. And in the case of the 1984 D penny, certain examples are known to feature doubling errors, misaligned strikes, weak dies, off-center strikes, and even mistakes with the D mint mark that sometimes appear misplaced, overpunched, or struck in ways that set them apart from regular issues. And when you have a coin that combines rarity with historical importance and eye-catching mistakes, you end up with an item that collectors are willing to pay staggering sums to obtain. So while most 1984 D pennies will still only be worth their face value of 1 cent or slightly more in circulated condition, those rare pieces with dramatic errors or perfectly preserved mint state conditions are the ones that have achieved values into the millions, making headlines and sparking the dreams of everyday people who search through their change in hopes of finding one. And to put this into perspective, imagine pulling a coin out of your pocket worth a single cent and realizing it could instead be valued at $59 million, a life-changing discovery that has fueled countless stories of coin finds at garage sales, thrift stores, and even in jars of spare change sitting in people's homes. And the reason why the 1984 D penny in particular has gained such legendary status is because it sits at the intersection of history and human error. As the 1980s were a period when the US Mint was shifting its coin composition, moving from primarily copper-based coins to the copper-plated zinc pennies we know today, and during this transition the minting process faced adjustments that often led to errors being produced, making coins from this era especially prone to valuable mistakes. So when a 1984 D penny exhibits a clear doubling of Lincoln's portrait or shows a misplaced mint mark, collectors immediately recognize it as a treasure because only a handful may exist. And scarcity is the foundation of value, and to further increase the worth of these coins, condition plays a huge role, as a 1984 D penny with visible errors in pristine mint state condition can fetch astronomical sums at auctions, while the same error in poor condition may only bring in hundreds or thousands, still far beyond face value, but not in the same realm of life-changing wealth. And this is why coin grading services such as PCGS or NGC play such a vital role in authenticating and certifying these rare coins, because collectors want assurance that what they are buying is real, verified, and accurately assessed. And so every time one of these ultra-rare 1984 D era pennies makes it into the spotlight, it reinforces the excitement and mystery of coin collecting, and inspires new generations to pay attention to the coins that pass through their hands every day. And when we speak of the $59 million valuation, it's not a random number but an estimate tied to the highest recorded values associated with unique error coins of this type, and it illustrates just how massive the difference can be between a coin's face value and its market value when extraordinary conditions are present. Because while a penny is intended to represent 1 cent in everyday commerce, to a collector its value is determined by rarity, demand, and uniqueness. And if you add to that the allure of errors that should never have left the mint, you create the perfect storm of desirability, making the 1984 D penny one of those legendary modern coins that everyone wishes to discover. And so the next time you come across an old jar of coins, a box of collectibles from a relative, or even just your spare change after a grocery trip, don't overlook the pennies, because among them could be a 1984 D with an error that transforms it from pocket change into a multi-million-dollar treasure. A coin that carries not just monetary value but also the fascinating story of how imperfection can turn into perfection in the eyes of collectors, and that is the enduring Magic of numismatics, where history, rarity, and human error combine to create objects of incredible worth, and the 1984 D penny is one of the brightest shining examples of this truth, standing as a reminder that sometimes the smallest things can carry the greatest value, and that every coin has a story, and some stories, like that of the 1984 D Lincoln penny, are worth far more than gold. The incredible story behind the 1986 United States 1-cent penny, a coin that to most people is just a simple piece of copper-plated zinc worth a single cent in everyday transactions, but for collectors and numismatists it can hold a staggering value of up to $76 million because of its rarity, errors, minting mistakes, and the intriguing possibilities that surround its production at the United States Mint during that year. And this is where things get truly exciting, because the 1986 penny, although seemingly ordinary at first glance, is one of those coins that proves how something small in your pocket change could turn into a life-changing discovery if you know what to look for. So let us take a journey through its history, its peculiar errors, and the reasons why collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts for it. Starting with the fact that 1986 was a time when the US Mint was already producing pennies with a copper-plated zinc composition that had been introduced in 1982 to save costs as the price of copper had risen, so the typical 1986 penny weighs about 2.5 grams, but due to minting variations and errors some coins were struck on leftover copper planchets from before 1982, and if one of those rare full copper 3.1 gram pennies is found with a 1986 date, it becomes instantly valuable. And this is just one of the reasons why the coin's worth can skyrocket, because such errors are practically accidents of history that were never meant to leave the mint, yet a few slipped through into circulation, sparking the imaginations and competitive desires of collectors worldwide. And then there is the subject of mint mark errors, which can drastically affect value, because in 1986 pennies were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which traditionally did not use a mint mark on 1-cent coins, as well as the Denver Mint, which used the D mint mark, and sometimes coins appeared with weak, doubled, or misaligned mint marks, and even more rarely with repunched mint marks where the D was stamped twice in slightly different positions, creating a highly collectible error that draws big money at auction. And while most people will never notice such tiny imperfections when handing over a penny at the grocery store, those in the numismatic world know that these minute details can mean the difference between 1 cent and millions. And when we talk about mistakes, it is not only mint marks, because 1986 pennies are also known for having dramatic die cracks, cuds, double dies, off-center strikes, and broad strikes, each of which is a striking error that makes the coin unique, and the rarer and more dramatic the error, the higher the potential value, with some spectacular double die obverse examples where the lettering Liberty or the date 1986 appears doubled in bold fashion being among the most sought after. And when collectors compete to own one of these rare varieties, the value naturally skyrockets into the tens of millions, which is exactly why some 1986 pennies have been valued at up to $76 million, far beyond their face value. And what makes the story even more fascinating is the human element, because coin collecting is not only about metal and minting, it is about history, art, mistakes, and the thrill of discovery. So imagine a coin minted for everyday use, carried in someone's pocket, perhaps dropped on a sidewalk or saved in a jar, and then decades later identified as a once-in-a-lifetime treasure that could buy a mansion. And it is this possibility that drives collectors and everyday people alike to carefully check their change, to pull out magnifying glasses, to study their coins in hopes of finding that one incredible piece. And the 1986 penny has become a symbol of how error coins can bridge the gap between common currency and unimaginable wealth. But it is also important to understand that not every 1986 penny is worth millions. Most are still just 1 cent, but the allure lies in the hunt. The dream that you might stumble across one of the rare varieties with dramatic mistakes or a mint mark anomaly that transforms it into a numismatic gem. And the value of $76 million is not just an arbitrary figure, it reflects the extraordinary rarity, the intensity of competition among collectors, and the fact that unique items in the coin world can break records at auctions, sometimes fetching amounts that seem unbelievable to the general public, yet remain perfectly logical within the world of serious numismatics. And this is why the story of the 1986 penny continues to inspire people, because it combines everyday life with hidden treasure, and it reminds us that even something as small as a cent can carry history, mystery, and unimaginable value if circumstances align. And so as you watch this video and perhaps glance at your own coins, remember that each one has its own story, and that the next extraordinary find could be sitting unnoticed in your wallet or coin jar right now. waiting for the right set of eyes to recognize its true worth. Where we uncover the hidden story of the 2010 D Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that at first glance seems like just another ordinary cent you might receive in your change, but in reality holds the potential of being worth as much as $98 million due to its rare errors, minting mistakes, and special characteristics that transform it from a simple face value coin into a legendary treasure among collectors. And as we dive into this fascinating journey, you will discover how something so small and often overlooked can carry a story of immense historical value, rarity, and financial worth that makes collectors and coin enthusiasts chase after it with passion and determination, because the 2010 D penny was part of a significant era in the history of American coinage, being minted in Denver with the D mint mark during a time when the United States Mint was transitioning the designs of the Lincoln cent and producing the shield reverse design that symbolizes the preservation of the Union. And while billions of these pennies were struck for circulation, only a tiny fraction are believed to contain the mint errors and anomalies that elevate their status to a life-changing find. For errors in coinage history have always fascinated collectors because they are unintentional mistakes that occur during the minting process, such as double dies where the design appears slightly doubled, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing or shifted, die cracks that leave raised lines across the surface, planchet errors where the metal blank itself is flawed, and even rare mint mark errors where the D of Denver might appear misplaced, faint, repunched, or entirely missing. And when such mistakes occur in modern coinage, they become highly desirable because the United States Mint has advanced technology that reduces errors significantly, meaning that when one slips through it becomes an extraordinary rarity. And the 2010 D penny is a perfect example of this possibility. Because while most people will spend it as a single cent, a small percentage of these coins with mistakes have been valued by collectors at astronomical amounts, some estimated to reach up to $98 million when the rarity, condition, and demand all align in the market, and the idea that a coin worth just 1 cent can suddenly become a fortune makes it even more exciting for people to start checking their pocket change, coin jars, and collections, because who knows, the next treasure could be hiding right in plain sight. And part of what makes the 2010 D penny so intriguing is not just its design and year but the context in which it was minted, as it came right after the special bicentennial designs of 2009 that celebrated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, so collectors were already paying close attention to Lincoln cents during this period. And that interest extended into the 2010 coins, especially when mint errors were reported, sparking even greater fascination and demand. And coin values are not only influenced by face value but also by rarity, historical importance, condition, and most importantly demand from collectors, which means when a coin like the 2010 D penny with an error surfaces in pristine condition, graded by professional services at the highest levels such as MS67 or MS68, it can command staggering prices at auctions, far beyond what most people would ever expect, and as we imagine the worth of up to $98 million attached to such a penny, it highlights just how much the numismatic world values uniqueness, history, and the thrill of rarity, because these aren't just coins, they're tangible pieces of history that connect us to the American story, and every scratch, every die mark, and every mint anomaly becomes part of a narrative that collectors hold in high regard, making this penny not just money but a true artifact. And when we look at why such errors make coins valuable, it all comes down to the fact that they cannot be reproduced intentionally. They are authentic accidents of history, captured in metal for all time, and because of that authenticity they stand apart in the world of collectibles where counterfeits are common, because mint errors are naturally occurring and verified by experts, giving them unmatched value, and when paired with a coin as iconic as the Lincoln penny, the combination becomes unbeatable. As the Lincoln cent is one of the longest-running coin series in United States history, first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and over the decades it has gone through design changes, metal composition shifts, and minting evolutions, all of which make each year and mint mark significant in its own way, and the 2010 D penny fits right into that grand lineage, marking the beginning of a new design era with the Union shield while carrying the possibility of valuable mint errors that drive its demand, and the stories of people finding such treasures in everyday circulation only add fuel to the fire of excitement, with tales of pennies picked up from the ground or pulled from spare change turning out to be worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in rare cases even millions, and this possibility is what keeps collectors and treasure hunters searching day after day, checking their coins carefully for small imperfections or unique features that could signal a fortune. And when we talk about $98 million, it might sound Unbelievable at first, but in the world of numismatics where collectors and institutions are willing to pay any price for the rarest of the rare, the sky is truly the limit, because the market is not bound by face value but by the intersection of supply, demand, and historical significance, and the 2010 D penny, through its combination of timing, design, and potential minting mistakes, has cemented itself as a modern legend in coin collecting, showing us that the true value of money is not always printed on its face but sometimes hidden in its flaws, waiting for someone sharp enough to notice and lucky enough to find it.